From across Maryland, Virginia, and the District, this is Washington's 24-hour local news leader. News Channel 8's Live This Morning starts right now.
Coming up on 10:32, lawmakers will use the coming 6 weeks or so in their districts to talk to their constituents and hopefully hear their concerns about varying proposals, legislative proposals. But how will these town meetings that many of these lawmakers will schedule actually affect our nation's lawmaking? Stephanie Vance is an advocacy guru and author of Citizens in Action, and she joins us live this morning. This is her book. It is called Citizens in Action, A Guide to Influencing Government, and it is it ought to be a primer for anyone who really wants to have their voice heard. Great to have you back. Nice to see you again.
Thanks for having me.
Let's get to, though, what has sort of been the headline of town hall meetings and the few that have happened in advance of the Senate's leaving town. Some House members are already back in the home districts, and in some very high-profile cases, they're almost being assaulted by some really mad people in the audience, whether it's an organized thing or not. These town hall meetings have been turned into circuses for the most part.
You know, they really have, and it's kind of a shame, I think, in many ways. I mean, I understand there's some folks who are mad as heck and they don't want to take it anymore, but this is not the most effective way to get your message across. And it's, in some ways, I think it's really limiting the voice of the people that do have legitimate concerns to share during the town hall recesses.
So while this is going on and maybe attracting a lot of the attention, and perhaps may make some lawmakers not hold these town hall meetings, many will, and they do offer an opportunity for the ordinary citizen to stand up, raise their hand, and say, hey, what about this? What can we do?
You know, they really do. They're a great opportunity for most citizens who haven't had any interaction with their legislators to, in their own communities, they don't have to fly to Washington, D.C., they don't have to go to the state capitol, they can just sit down with the legislators and the staff and talk about some issues. So I'd still encourage people to find out when stop by and see if they can get some of their concerns heard.
If not the town hall meeting, what's the best avenue for them to get their issue before the member? That's what they're trying to do in the first place.
It really is. And I know that most people can't come to Washington, D.C. I mean, studies have actually shown that an in-person meeting with constituents is a great way to get your message across. But if you can't do that in D.C., you can still do it in the district. Even if you can't attend one of the town hall meetings, you can go meet with them in their district offices, talk to their district staff. And if you're not comfortable with that, you can also consider making a phone call, sending an email, sending a fax. There's a whole range of ways to really get in touch with them.
I've said this many times before in the spirit of full disclosure. I used to be on a congressional staff a long time ago, and I know that we answered every piece of mail that came into that office. Now, that was a long time ago and way before email and that sort of thing. But my sense is that the constituent service is still very high on most members' agendas. So if you write something, if you have an opinion, if you want that message heard, it does get heard.
It really does. Now, whether it gets agreed with is a different matter. And I think sometimes
that's the rub in many cases, yeah.
Sometimes people think, oh, they haven't heard me because they don't agree with me. But in fact, it does get heard. You know, the people who are paying attention to the mail, they get those communications, they review them, they look at them carefully. As long as that message has some key criteria, it needs to be personal, it needs to be thoughtful, and it needs to really be relevant to the lawmaker that's receiving it.
Stephanie really has some great advice on how to get your message heard, and the name of the book is Citizens in Action. Thanks so much for joining us, Stephanie.
Thank you.
It's good to see you again.